This is Ninh Tran, co-founder and CEO of Hiretual, and I'm next on the RecTech podcast.
Welcome to RecTech, the podcast where recruiting and technology intersect. Each month, you'll hear from vendors shaping the recruiting world, along with recruiters who'll tell you how they use technology to hire talent. Now, here's your host, the mad scientist of online recruiting, Chris Russell.
That's right. It's time for RecTech, the only podcast that helps employers and recruiters connect with more candidates through technology-inspired conversations. If you listen, you'll hear both recruiters and HR tech vendors talk about how they use tech to find talent. Today's show is a vendor edition, and we're coming to you from the HR Tech Conference in Las Vegas. I am here with Ninh Tran. First, this podcast is sponsored by our friends at Jobs in the US. If your company needs to hire more local talent, jobsintheus.com lets you post your jobs for free on their national job search engine. They also operate 51 local state sites for every state in the country, including Washington, D.C. They've been around for a long time, since 1999, and the job boards they power will help you connect with more local talent. Learn more again at jobsintheus.com. All right, my guest today is from one of the most popular sourcing tools in use today by recruiters everywhere. Today we'll learn more about its origins and get some good sourcing tips, I hope. Ninh Tran, welcome to RecTech.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, what is Hiretual and how did it start?
Hiretual is recruiter's best friend.
That's a good tagline.
Thank you. Our mission is to make the internet recruiter friendly and make recruiters' life easier. How did it start? About 2.5 years ago, a bunch of really smart people got together. So my founder was a junior engineer at Samsung Research and Development. He got promoted within a year to become the manager, engineering manager.
Okay.
Then when he quit, he got his boss to quit, the senior director of research and development. And I quit at Google, and the three of us, plus one more, formed what is the entity called Hireteammate.
Hireteammate. Okay.
Hireteammate. We built a whole bunch of things. It all failed. Okay. Essentially, either people didn't want to use it, or they didn't want to pay for it. And what happened is we said, you know what? Enough of that. We'll start charging, and somehow we became a recruiting agency. So we started just charging commission based on placement.
Okay. And
by chance and by fluke, I became a recruiter.
All right.
So I led all of that operations.
Yeah. So, how long have you been recruiting? What was your, what was your take on recruiting as you started into the business there?
So I was recruiting for about a year. Took a year to feed my engineers to really build the AI back platform to really get to something useful that you see today in Hiretual. We did, executive search in the Bay Area. So I was poaching.
Tough market.
Yep, tough market, but I've learned I didn't really have a teacher for recruiting. So when we started, I had to learn everything from scratch. I was spamming thousands of people at a time. I learned the basics, learned the tough lessons,
yep.
Right? Do not spam, be very personable, reach out, write really good templates if you don't want to personalize. And eventually I got to about 40% response rate from, big companies, guys, to join unknown startups. And I really fell in love with that.
Yep. It's a very common sense business, isn't it, in terms of just doing what you need to do to reach out to candidates. I mean, it's just being nice, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's really, recruiting is all about people, right? It's all about the relationship. You build a relationship with them. If you treat people like, hey, here's a job, you would be great for this role, apply here, everyone's going to say, whatever, who cares? I get 20 of those a day, especially if you're targeting, purple squirrels that everybody wants. So the approach is leave a little bit of mystery. It's kind of like dating, right?
Yep.
If you meet an amazing woman, I'm married, by the way. If you meet an amazing woman like my wife, and you tell her everything about you on the first date, she's gonna say, "Okay, nice to meet you," and run the other way.
Exactly.
But if you take it a little bit tactical and kind of give the bait, like, "Hey, let's chat. Let's book a time to to learn a little bit about you and the role and what our company or that company is about.
Yep.
I was often representing really well-funded startups, and my trick was to kind of envision myself wanting or finding a reason why I would want to work there myself.
Right.
And you kind of sell that. You build a relationship, people call you, call them back, give feedback,
Yep.
bug them all you want.
No, that's great advice. I mean, I think it's it's spot on, and that's how every recruiter should start, I think. So you've done a lot of writing over the last couple of years through sites like SourceCon. Took a look at some of your articles recently. You had a couple on there about sourcing, which is what you're good at. So one of those posts was about sourcing on SlideShare, the LinkedIn-owned PowerPoint sharing platform, I guess. So how do you source on something like SlideShare?
You X-ray into SlideShare, just like people would X-ray into LinkedIn. You go on google.com, you put site, /SlideShare.net or .com. You'd put negative sample to get rid of sample resumes, sample presentation, sample anything.
So you put minus
sample,
yep.
Right? And you also put minus job or jobs, because if you're a recruiter, you're probably not looking for jobs. If you're a biz dev for a staffing agency, you can look at that, right? And see the person who actually posted that slide for jobs. But as a recruiter, usually you source for people, so you minus that, and then you add any skills that you want. So for example, could be quotation marks Java, and then you add essentially a Boolean string at the end. So I usually include a location. So San Francisco, that's where we are at.
Yep.
And it'll give you like 1,000 results, really depending. It could be 10,000, 100,000. So the reason why you would source on SlideShare is because since LinkedIn's acquisition of SlideShare, they have integrated the product fully with the LinkedIn network.
Okay.
And anyone who uploads a document to their profile, there's a backend integration that all those documents are stored on SlideShare publicly, for the most part, unless the person selects that the document should be private and so on and so forth.
Right.
Right. But
there's a lot of PowerPoint resumes on SlideShare too.
Yes.
You ever notice that?
Yes, there's a ton. And one trick there is to not just go with the web or text returns. Mm-hmm. Search Google for images, because you'll get more results, and the reason why is Google indexes and stores images on a different server, and it's cached a lot longer.
Okay. Meaning it's stored a
Yep.
lot longer. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Cool stuff. How about Facebook? What tips do you have recruiting on Facebook?
Well, Facebook, you can source Facebook with graph search. It's complicated URL manipulation. It's very similar to Boolean if you know what you're doing.
Yep.
There's two major operators, just like AND and OR, is intersect and union. Okay. If you use union, that would be equivalent to OR. If you use intersect, it would be equivalent to AND. It's quite complicated. Okay. I know Shally
Seckrell?
Yep. He's teaching, and a lot of trainers are teaching on this, so it's a little bit one step beyond Boolean. But there's an easier solution, and I might tell you that at the end. But there's essentially three major ways how you can source on Facebook, right? Graph search, people search, where you just type in, hey, I'm doing nurse in New York, and a whole bunch of people who publicly have.
You can just type that in, nurse New York, and it'll pop up.
Have
people results, right? So
yeah, if people publicly describe themselves as being a nurse and they live in New York, and then they'll show up. Now, the more friends you have, the more data you have access to, right? And you also be searching people who are friends of your friends and friends. So different privacy settings, like everyone knows about. I hope everyone knows about those privacy settings on Facebook. The second way you can source on Facebook is my favorite way, actually. It's posting in Facebook groups.
Yes.
Unlike LinkedIn's groups, Facebook groups have very high level of engagement. Now, one way to look at the group, which ones you should post in and which one you should probably save your time and go to the next one, is just look look at the group and see what the activity is. If there's a lot of posters, not a lot of likes, not a lot of comments, not a lot of engagement, just skip. Don't even post there, because maybe only the admin will see it. Makes sense. If there's groups that they have likes, and it could be a group that, let's say you're looking for like cybersecurity person, so you just type in cybersecurity in the groups and just join all of them. Join as many as you can. I would recommend, if you're starting, do maybe 30 a day. Ease into it, right? If you join too many, Facebook might say, hey, slow down.
Yep.
At that point, do slow down, because otherwise you might get into restriction space, and you don't want to be there. Yeah, Facebook jail. But Facebook is a lot nicer than one of the other professional networks.
Yes.
So they'll get you off the hook sooner. And then the third way you can source on Facebook is by using their ad engine. So not a lot of people know that they can post ads, jobs on Facebook. I have optimized. So when we did the recruiting, we used Facebook for ads, and I got it to about 21 cents per click. So the process there, obviously, it's kind of like ad space 101, is you create maybe one campaign and 20 different ads in it. And you tailor it to the demographic that you're targeting. So for example, if I'm looking for diversity folks with Java, right, then I'll say, I'm looking at San Francisco, or all the major cities that I want to target, and this age to this age is optional, but then you select, like African American or women or things like that, and you create the ad, the image, to match your audience. Now, not all of them are gonna resonate, right? That's fine. Some of them are gonna cost like $3 to $5 per click, $1. And the point of doing 20 or 30 or 50 is to select the ones that perform the most and have the lowest PPC,
right? Cost
per click, or CPP. And then what you do is you just scale and retarget. I can tell you that the cost per application was about $20.
$20.
And after optimization, and that's for really high niche roles like principal DevOps person.
So you can advertise a software developer role on Facebook and get applicants?
Yes. Use custom audiences, so get a list of people that look like what you want.
Yep.
One of the ways you can get the list is by using different sourcing tools.
Like Hiretual?
Like Hiretual.
All right, well, we'll get into that shortly. Just one more question about recruiting is, what's your best sourcing win while being a recruiter out there? What's your most creative guy that you found? How did you do that?
So I have quite a few success stories here, but I think today I want to share a little bit about not my personal success, but success of one of my colleagues that I've trained to do the recruiting and sourcing.
Okay.
So towards like the second half of the year that we were recruiting, we started doing placements from US to China.
Okay, US to China.
US to China. So US engineers that worked at Facebook, Twitter, Google, to join Chinese startups as a CTO, so on and so forth, right? It's hard, and I know that not everyone can do this because there's language barrier, culture barrier, and all that.
Yep.
We got lucky because this recruiter in particular, his name is Jason. If you know Hiretual, you probably know Jason. Uh-huh. But he did that. I don't speak Chinese, so I couldn't do that. But I trained him the skills, and he took it and even upgraded it. So what happened is we got a client in China, was very well VC funded. They needed a CTO, someone who went to top school like Stanford or Tsinghua, which is like Harvard in China.
Okay.
And work as a senior or principal engineer at one of the big tech companies, right? And they offered 50% commission on that placement. Wow. Yeah. It took us 6 months, really, plus payment, so maybe like 7-8 months, yeah, foreign transaction for big amounts.
Yep.
And we're working on it. In the first week, Jason found the guy. First week, he found a guy who worked at Twitter as their principal engineer. Went to Stanford before he interned at Facebook, and all that. He was a perfect match. Closing the candidate, obviously, imagine, hey, there's a job in China. Do you want to, relocate? I guess a lot of
the ultimate relocation story.
Yeah. And believe me, during that time, there's a lot of immigration stuff going on. It was quite controversial. So we kind of did our part in all of that. And what happened is he said yes. We wine him and fine dine him.
Yep. Was he married? Was he?
He was a single guy. He wanted to go back. Actually, his girlfriend was there. A lot of reasons, right? So, collect your bullets and build a relationship.
Nice,
right? He sold his car. He sold his house. Moved back. And then we got a big check.
Nice. Good story. Good stories. Yeah. All right. So let's switch gears a little bit. There's talk in the industry about LinkedIn and them clamping down on all these third-party tools. You're a third-party tool yourself, yep. Hiretual. So what's your just overall take on that? And, why is Hiretual not in any of that danger, would you say?
Yeah, Chris, the reason why Hiretual is not in that danger is because we don't scrape LinkedIn. The extension itself doesn't do anything on LinkedIn. It seems like it does because if you're in someone's profile, you click on Hiretual to open it up, mm-hmm. then we'll serve you their contact information. Long story short, we have one of the best legal counsels for our product, and they helped us navigate these treacherous waters.
So you studied the LinkedIn TOS?
Yes,
and
of course. We made sure, even before they released the new TOS, that we're compliant. Now,
did they ever reach out to you? Do you have like a direct line communication with them, or?
I believe some on our team do. I don't personally.
Okay.
But with that said, LinkedIn has recently lost a case against HiQ, yep. which is another startup. Check them out. It was a case for David versus Goliath, really. And I just want to say here, LinkedIn has a good product, right? It's not end all be all. So yep. explore other platforms and tools out there that might help you speed up your recruiting and make your life easier. But they did lose, and the judge ordered them to not stop other companies from accessing their data,
right?
Public data.
And the main reason was because it's public data, right? That was kind of the general gist of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what Google's doing, right? They index all of the information on the web,
yeah,
and they're great. I use Google every day. I think everyone does, but it's not fair to say you can use it and you cannot.
Right.
Yep. I mean, I honestly don't understand why LinkedIn is biting the hand that feeds them. Right. I understand the business strategy of expanding your reach once you get really big.
Right.
I think once Microsoft acquired them, or even before the acquisition, right? Kind of to establish and to keep your dominant position in the market, which LinkedIn really is,
yep.
Is to do this sort of thing. But you can only go so far.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about Hiretual. You've been how long has Hiretual been out now?
Commercially, 1 year.
1 year. Okay, so 1 year, you've really come a long way in my eyes in terms of just your overall brand awareness in the industry and the number of recruiters using you. So talk to me about that success. I mean, how did you get there?
With the help of the community. We started from nothing. Hiretual was really our kind of a last shot a last moonshot. Because when we started the startup, essentially built a whole bunch of things, didn't work, became a staffing agency, but we didn't want it to be a small business, right? And then we built internal tools for me and for Jason and for a couple other guys, interns that I hired for summer to help me source and recruit. And one of the interns used what today is the godfather of Hiretual to make a placement after 1 month. He never touched recruiting, is not in tech background, and he paid for himself a couple times over. So we realized this is actually valuable, and we opened it to the beta. And in beta, recruiters and sourcers, they're one of the most amazing people that I've worked with. I work with IT founders, so on and so forth. But in recruiting, like if something works, people share. If something doesn't work, then it doesn't work. So at first they were telling me, it's cool, not really useful, right? And we got the feedback and we really listened, and it really helped that we were doing the recruiting and really got into what we actually need. It's a lot of work, and time is essential.
Right.
And people are telling me, hey, I need contact information. Can you help me write Boolean string outside of LinkedIn, right? And we added it, just listened, had conversations, built relationships. It's, I think what sets us apart as a vendor, quote unquote, is that I'll just talk to you and listen to what you need, right? Instead of, hey, apply for this job.
Hey, buy my stuff.
Buy my stuff, right?
No, it's a refreshing approach, and I think it's kudos to you for doing that. I think it's really interesting how you did that, and you really got the community to become a voice for your product as well, which is hard to do these days.
Yeah.
Just
today, someone asked about Hiretual on one of the Facebook groups. What do you think about Hiretual? Right? Should I get it? And there's 30 comments saying Hiretual is awesome. I love the guys. I love the team. Nice. So ultimately, what sets us apart from anyone else is the people, not just behind the product, like building it, but people who back us up and tell us, hey, you guys screwed up here. You need to fix it, or you guys are doing great. I need more of it.
And what's the correct pronunciation? Because the name is a little unusual. I hear recruiting animals say Hiretual all the time. What's up, animal? Say it again, because you said it pretty good.
So I just want to say there's no correct way. You can call it Hiretual. Okay. Hiretual, as long as you don't say hire me too or things like that.
All right.
But, yeah.
Fair enough. All right. So. The last question, then, future of sourcing. Sourcing's come a long way the last few years with all the data that's being on the internet right now for people. It's in the last 3 to 4 years, sourcing is becoming a much bigger tool in the HR department's toolbox in terms of filling seats. So where's sourcing in 3 to 5 years, would you say?
I think it's going to be very much the same. I hope that people will still be talking about Hiretual in an increasing manner, but the industry as a whole, right? You got really big players in the space, and they don't change very fast. They might talk about changing and implementing new technology, deep learning, AI, machine learning, and then you have the small guys like us who are doing what the thought leaders are saying. Right. I think people are still going to talk about candidate experience, employer branding, all those, right? Back to basics, new topics, artificial intelligence. It could be a fad, but by seeing the results, it's probably going to stay and stick around, right? It's the biggest hype at the moment. So, even if a startup is not doing AI, they say, hey, AI for something, right? In 3 to 5 years, it's recruiting is about people, sourcing is about finding them, right? So searching people. And I guess if I could identify something, like the late adopters and the pragmatics, they will be adopting more and more technology.
Yeah, recruiting is definitely getting more technical as a function and a skill. So
and I would say, I would like to add that it's going to be across all industries and across all functions, right?
Yep.
So it's not just IT recruiters who are going to be using technology to find their folks, but it'll be the just regular folks, right? The people that you can't find online, right? Because in 3 to 5 years, the millennials, right? I'm a millennial. Well, we get older, everyone does, but more of us will enter the workforce, and any generation after that, we're all hooked on internet, so we'll be there.
Nice. Well, Ninh Tran, thank you very much for joining me today, and tell everyone where to go get Hiretual.
Go to hiretual.com. Thank you, Chris, for having me.
You're welcome. That will do it for this edition of the RecTech Podcast. Thanks again to our sponsor. Remember to check out Jobs in the U.S. for your local hiring needs. You can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and now Stitcher Radio. We're on there. Hey, if you like the show, please leave a review on your channel of choice. I'd love to get your feedback or mention us on social media with the hashtag RecTech. Follow me on Twitter at Chris Russell, or visit rectechmedia.com. You can find the audio and links for the show on our blog. And just a reminder, I'm a consultant that helps both HR tech firms and employers get more clients or candidates. So check me out, and if you need some recruiting marketing help. Learn more at rectechmedia.com, and remember, kids, always be recruiting. Thanks for listening.